Rachel, you're on mute.
Well, let's start over. I was just saying thank you so much for that introduction, Michelle. And we are excited to be here with you guys chatting about persuasive proposals today. We'll start by introducing ourselves. And I'm Rachel Thompson. I am the BD and marketing manager at Dragonfly Editorial, which does writing, editing, and design for B2B businesses. And I have been in the proposal industry for about 4 years now. I am foundation certified in proposal management. And yeah, Lisa, what about you?
I am Lisa Green. I am the founder and president of ASIL Ventures. We are a full service proposal management company. So we start from opportunity identification and assessment. So whether or not you should place a bid or whether or not you should pursue a grant, to post-submittal support, which could include interview prep, scaling up for a contract or award. I have been in the business for about 10 years for business development, but I've been APMP certified at the foundation level for 4 years. I also do grant review. So a lot of the proposals that I write kind of from the evaluator's perspective, and I do grant review for the Department of Labor as well as private foundations.
Thanks, Lisa. Okay, so today we want to give you guys a different way of looking at proposals. As marketing writers, some of you might be completely audience focused. You might be focused on highlighting a specific message, or others might be focused on both of those things. And it's true that this is the case in proposals too, but you can approach all of that with a persuasive lens. So here's a look at where we're going today. We'll start by defining persuasion, explain what we mean by proposals, and then combine them. We will also explain what the weapons of influence are and how to use them. Then we'll talk about putting it all together to create a winning proposal. Feel free to ask questions in the chat at any time. We definitely want this to be an interactive I was going to say an interactive proposal, but no, an interactive presentation. So if anything pops into your mind, we're more than happy to pause and chat about it. Okay, so what exactly is persuasion? Well, by the dictionary, it means to move someone's opinion by argument. In less ethical situations, it means to tempt someone to do something that they refused to do before. In this case, we're obviously talking about ethical situations in professional settings.
So what is the art of persuasion? So research shows that people can be persuaded to act in universal, predictable ways. And why this is important is because our goal as writers or marketers or business development people is to guide, convince, or influence people into thinking that our solution, whether it's our good or service, is the right choice for them. And we have to remember that when we do this, when we try to persuade people, that 95% of the time, that decision to choose us is comes from the subconscious mind. So therefore, to be more effective, we need to connect with our readers, our audience, and our customers at this level.
Okay, so a proposal. Now, what's proposal? A proposal is an appeal to the evaluator's needs and the presentation of a solution that meets those needs. When you write a proposal, you are telling a story and you are trying to convince your evaluator that you thoroughly understand their problem, you have the best solution for their problem, and you want what's best for the evaluator. And by evaluator, I mean the person reviewing your proposal and determining whether it's the right solution for them. Another word here would be client, lead, or potential customer. And Lisa has actually been the evaluator in some situations, so she has a really unique view of how this role works. So proposals paired with persuasive writing are personal, specific, and conclusive. So let's get into what that means. Personal means that the proposal is primarily focused on your evaluator's needs. It shows that you know what keeps your evaluator up at night and you have a solution for it. Being specific in your persuasive writing means that you're showing how your solution will translate to your audience's unique environment and situation with real scenarios and precise statistics to prove your solution is right. And then being conclusive in persuasive writing is meaning that you are leaving no doubt to the best course of action, which is hiring you. So what does this look like in action? Well, I've got an example scenario for you that I thought was, a little bit in season. We've got Halloween around the corner, so let's talk about it. In this example scenario, Ben & Jerry's needs a new ice cream flavor for Halloween. RL Science has come up with a new flavor that they want Ben & Jerry's to feature. So RL Science is going to go ahead and submit a proposal to Ben & Jerry explaining why their ice cream is the one that should be the newest flavor at Ben & Jerry's. So they're going to make their proposal personal by saying, well, we know you need a new flavor and your goal is to attract the kiddos during Halloween, which tends to be a cold season, meaning that people don't eat ice cream. Our flavor is perfect for you. So in this case, they are focusing on Ben & Jerry's needs and speaking directly to that. Then they're going to be specific. They say, our flavor is perfect for you because it's orange, purple, and black, and it's got cool designs like bats and pumpkin. And we tried it on a small sample size, and 100% of the kiddos loved it. There you go, using precise statistics and being specific in their persuasive writing. And then they're being conclusive. This is the best flavor for you because it tastes great, it looks great, it requires minimal preparation, and it appeals to your target market. So RL Science is leaving no doubt as to the best course of action, which is selling their ice cream during Halloween.
So how do we make these persuasive arguments? We use something we call weapons of influence, and we are basing our presentation today on the APMP's body of knowledge, the APMP, which I know we've used that before, but that is the Association of Proposal Management Professionals and is the widely recognized go-to association for proposal people, which includes proposal writers, managers, editors, and business developers. The weapons of influence are 6 categories of persuasion named by Robert Cialdini in Influence, Science, and Practice. There are different methods of persuading people, which will help you understand how to be personal, specific, and conclusive in a proposal. So the first weapon is consistency, which really means speak in your customer's language, and is a good example of a personal touch in a proposal. So how do you do this? First, you have to understand your customer's concerns, risk, values, and goals. And what do I mean by that? The concerns are what is keeping your customer up at night? Is it financial? Is it human resources? We should write to address these concerns and also use their terminology. Risk, what risk are they willing to take? And how can you convince that they're worth it? I do a lot of government work. So sometimes the risk is government agencies like to hire incumbents, people they have a previous experience with. So you have to understand that and mitigate that risk in writing your proposal. What do they value? Do they value, for example, sticking with their budget? Do they value certain programs? Again, because of my government experience, I've always been taught that the budget is a list of priorities. So if you're doing a government proposal, you can review their budget to see what they're funding. If you're working for a nonprofit, you can look at their annual plan or their strategic plan to see their goals, where they spent their money in programming, and kind of understand how you fit and how you can tailor your proposal to that. And lastly, what are their goals? Where do they want to be? And again, reviewing their marketing plans or their annual reports or their strategic plans can help you gain insight into where companies want to go. Even smaller companies have a blueprint. So you can look at their vendors, suppliers. Do you have anything in common? Do they work with the same people that you work with? And therefore you'll be able to write, again, your proposal to show that I'm a fit for your company and I can give you the service or good that you need. And understanding these 4 things will definitely help your proposal to be personal and conclusive.
So the next weapon of influence is social proof. And the quote here is, if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. So you can establish social proof by describing past successes with similar or noteworthy clients. And including testimonials and quotes within the proposal, adding any case studies. And I've got a picture here of a 5-star Google review. And even though you don't necessarily see that in proposals, you'll see that in marketing. So those 5-star reviews is showing other people, hey, it's okay to eat at this restaurant or buy this product. And I know that it's okay because of this social proof, because other people are enjoying it. And so that might mean I will probably enjoy it. I think this might be losing some of its credibility simply because everything has a 5-star review on Amazon these days, but that's one example of it. And this is where you can get specific in your proposal by showing rather than telling your evaluators why they should trust you.
So the other weapon of influence is liking. Liking is I am my customer. What you want to do is liking is the basis of forming a relationship with customers. And the key to that is finding balance in commonalities. But you also want to be careful not to be too eager or annoying, to be honest. You want to give customers and evaluators the space to get to know you without being persistent. Now, the way you do that is you email them maybe one too many times. If the RFP says, please do not send emails, don't send emails. You may write, or you may want to call them. Did you receive it? Stuff like that can rub an evaluator the wrong way. Also, from my experience with evaluator, when there are RFP requirements about font size and how to, put section headers, there's a reason for that. And so if you follow that rule, something like that, if you make it really easy for the evaluator to read and understand what you're telling them, I've often ended reading proposals like, I like this person. No particular reason. It's just they made it very easy for me to read. It was very clear and very concise. So if you have the opportunity to get in front of your evaluator to develop that relationship with your funder, for commonalities person to person, I would start, do you have anything in common? Do you volunteer at the same things? Do you live in the same community? Are you interested in the same type of activities? On a macro level, when you're looking at a funder or a company or a client, do you work in the same area? Do you have the same target demographics? You want to speak to this while you're building this relationship. And by building this relationship, you build your network and you add the personal touch to proposals.
Well, when you're building relationships, the other thing you want to do is show that you can be trusted. And so authority is the next weapon of influence that we're talking about. And we can translate this in the quote, a big fish in a small pond. So authority often comes into play when a non-expert is forced to decide about a complex issue. And that means evaluators are often relying on those with authority to recommend the most suitable decision for whatever their problem is. So you can demonstrate authority by describing the credentials of your team members, referencing awards and industry accolades, or providing testimonials from knowledgeable past clients, or even references as well. So this is a great way to get specific in your proposal.
Now, scarcity is, it's one of those weapons of influence that has to be used very, very carefully. That's why we put the only in case of emergency. This is an example of an inclusive part of your proposal, because you're letting your customer know that what you're offering them truly is the best and you're the only source for that good or service. However, it should only be used again carefully, because people have a very strong emotional reaction to being lied to. So you don't want to say that only I can do this, or you can only get this from me, if in fact it's not true. Or, if you don't lock in the price today, the price is going to go up, when that also is not true. Now, if you truly were going to have a price change, for example, if you said to your customers like, hey, these are our 2022 prices. As of 2023, we're going to raise our prices. So please lock in your prices today. That's totally valid. But if you do kind of promise, or sometimes it may be viewed as evaluator that you're threatening, that if you don't do this today, that you'll never get it. It's not a good look. It rubs them the wrong way, and they remember that more than maybe what the service or good you're offering. So be advised that while it's important, it should only be used in situations where you truly have a scarce resource that you're offering.
So reciprocity is our last weapon of influence today, and it's another one that you probably want to stay away from in proposals. It's captured with the old phrase, you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. So you're subtly reminding readers of something valuable that they've received. And for example, if your firm made concessions in a prior proposal, reminding the evaluator of this can trigger a feeling of indebtedness. So this one would be more of a personal touch in a proposal, but I wouldn't exactly recommend it. It definitely falls into that unethical bucket that we mentioned earlier, and you would really be conducting deals under the table. So this is not one that we would recommend using.
So now that you understand the weapons of influence, what do? You have to pull all together. And by doing that, now you're ready to write. What does that mean? Well, first, you want to find your win themes. Win themes is the reason why your company should be awarded the contract. And while this can be very hard, you want to have something that's consistent throughout your proposal. Either you say 3%, you're the first person to do this, you do this all the time, but some type of win theme should come out. Second, outline. Whether you're writing a 2-page proposal or you're writing a 200-page proposal, you should understand the direction you want to go through. You want to make sure that your proposal is compliant, so you answer all the questions in the order that they're asked, and responsive. And that's where you're really selling that I am the best solution to your problem. And the only way that we have found to do that is outline, especially if you're going to have different people writing different sections. 3, apply the weapons of influence to hone your argument. Consider liking, consider consistency, consider authority. Make sure those things, those subtle things that appeals to their subconscious mind comes out in your writing. Next, you want to write to and for your customer. Now that's twofold. So the to part is you want to speak in the language that they speak in. So if they use, the word soda instead of pop, then you use soda throughout your title proposal. You also want to write for your customers. So if you have an academic client, then you need to write with a more academic styling that may be more references or citations. If you have a more digital focus analytical, then you may have more infographics or more data. But you have to know your customer, you have to know how they usually receive information, and try to structure your proposal in that way as well. And lastly, have a buddy system. For all of my writing projects, I usually have an editor or someone who's not involved in the project read it towards the end. And I ask them like, hey, does this make sense to you? And then, obviously be open to feedback, like this paragraph makes absolutely no sense. Or sometimes you'll find you've said the same thing 5 different times. And it's at this point repetitive and redundant.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's talk about some writing resources that you can turn to when you are writing. We've got a few websites here and some books that we really like. Winning the Business is by APMP, like we mentioned earlier, and they have a bunch of articles that are thought leadership pieces from people in the industry. Prop Library is the ABCs of proposals. The APMP Body of Knowledge and the SMPS Marketing Resource Center are similar, in which it's kind of like, here's how and why we do things the way we do them in proposals. SMPS is specifically for marketers in the architecture, engineering, construction fields, and it stands for the Society of Marketing Professional Services. And then I also wanted to let you guys know about Dragonfly's stuff. We've got some field guides and videos about proposals and writing and editing and all of the like. So you'll find a lot of great stuff on our website under our resources center. And we'll make sure you guys can get this PowerPoint so you can actually click on those links. And it looks like somebody in the chat, Lisa, is a member of SMPS. So that's awesome. Awesome. And then definitely check out these books as well if you're more of a reader. 10 Steps to Creating High Scoring Proposals, Writing to Win Federal Grants, and Persuasive Business Proposals are all great places to start. If you have any other ideas of resources, feel free to drop them in the chat as well. Okay, well, that is the presentation. So thank you so much for joining us today. All of our contact info is right there. If you want to contact us, feel free to send us a message or email. Lisa, you want to take that question?
Oh, absolutely. I would love to tell you my top 3 loves. One, if you break up the proposal for us, so how do I explain this? So if you, instead of just having blank text and answer the questions, for example, a federal one, this is the perfect one. The federal one, you usually have maximum 15 pages for your narrative, right? But you have questions like 1A, 1B, 1C, but you can't have the usual spaces because you just have 15 pages. One of the best proposals I ever evaluated, for every 1A, they just bolded, underlined. So when I was going through my checklist, I already knew where to go because it was just, this is where 1A is, this is where 1B is, this is where 1C is, this is where 2A is. And that was really helpful. 3, answer the question. And I know that sounds very like, I don't want to sound rude, but answer the question before you give me a lot of background, like, do you work in Chicago, Illinois? Yes, I work in Chicago, Illinois. Like, before you give me the history of like Harold Washington, disabled, like, I just want to know yes, because what we do is we get a stack of documents and we have a certain time to return them back to like the DOL. So we really can't kind of filter through to maybe get your point. So answer the question in the first sentence. And the third one is when you actually explain with a small example. Like, I think sometimes people think when they answer a question, they have to give like a really long history, and it's not true. Like, we don't expect you to write your entire technical approach or your entire whatever. It could be something as simple as like, yes, we have experience working with veterans. We have hosted something since 2019, and we are on staff have 2 veterans. A very simple sentence would be an example of a love. My hates are, 1, when you give us extra information, you don't want extra information that we have to sort through. 2, you don't really help us understand exactly what you're saying. I think it's that reciprocity thing where you assume because you're the incumbent, you'll actually get the reward again. But the evaluators are always changing, right? So please read the questions. And make sure you're answering, like number 4 from 3 years ago probably changed. So make sure you're answering the question for this current cycle. And the third thing that I really don't like is too many acronyms, because not every evaluator is technical. So you have to balance between explaining and assuming that some things are going to be standard. I read one where it was just all acronyms, and I'm like, I have no clue what you're talking about.
Did you don't refer back and forth to the acronym list, or were you just like,
there's no acronym list. So like, if you're going to have a lot, because I know sometimes people think you have 15 pages federal stuff, like either have an acronym list or just don't use as many, because Department of Labor covers how many different topics, right? Veterans and workforce development. So like, PACE in one thing is different from PACE with DOT. Like, it could mean different things. So either have an acronym list or just be careful, mindful of how many acronyms you're using. So thank you for your question, Allison.
Yeah, that was a great one. What are my best ideas around trying to use different content by industry segments? Do you think it's worth it? I do think it's worth it to kind of, I'm assuming you're meaning like showing off what you have done in different industries to the evaluator. And I think it just kind of depends on who your client is, who you're going for. Whenever I'm researching for a proposal, I am looking at I'm looking at the website, I'm looking at the LinkedIn, I'm looking at all the people on LinkedIn, I'm looking at social media. I'm trying to get as much information about that client as I possibly can. And then if this proposal is to a specific industry within that client, then I'm focusing in on that industry. I might say something somewhere in the proposal that says, oh, hey, we know you also work in X, Y, and Z industries, and we have experience in that too, but I'm not going to focus on that. So I'm definitely going to focus in on what industry they're in, and not going like above and beyond to try to to cover all these other things, because like Lisa said, the evaluator asked a specific question and they want to know, can you do what we're asking you to do? Do you have that experience in this industry? But there are times where some clients may not realize that you offer another service, for example. Everybody knows that Dragonfly Editorial does editing, but they don't always know that we do writing and design too. And so a lot of people will be pleasantly surprised and go, oh, well, we could use you in those services too. And so because we've gotten that kind of feedback so much, I try to always work in like, hey, we also do this in case you're interested. I know this is specific, but a one-liner, not going super into it. Is that fair, Lisa?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
it is. Yes. The only thing I would add as I was thinking about that is please update your websites and LinkedIn profiles if you're applying for an application. Because oftentimes you'll have this great person when you're evaluating or writing, and they're like, I'm Lisa Green and I'm the senior something, and I've been doing this for 15 years. And I'm like, oh, she sounds amazing. Like, we're human, we have Google. And that comes up, and that person, it's either not on your website, that person doesn't have it on their LinkedIn, like just the simple first things that you'll see. So I tell people, like, when you apply for a government proposal or grant or solicitation or grant, plan to leave that up for at least 3 to 6 months. Like, don't change it. Just leave it up, especially if you're going for your own company or something like that. Or I put down Rachel Thomas, business development manager. She needs to keep that up for at least 3 months until the contract has been awarded. And then if you need to change it. But we do Google to confirm.
Here's a question for you, Lisa. I know that in some cases you're not allowed to call or email people when you're trying to get answers. After you've submitted the proposal, how often can you bug the evaluator to say, hey, when is the announcement coming, if they haven't said anything about when the award is coming?
So you can definitely bug them. I every 2 weeks, once a month, kind of like, hey, just checking in. It depends on the evaluator. It depends on the department. Some people, if you start early enough where you're able to submit a question before questions and answers are due, then you can develop that relationship. If you were able to do like a notice of solicitation or the market research before they actually submit the bid, more than likely to help you. But after you submit it 2 weeks, a month, if you just want to say, hey, I haven't heard anything, is there anything going on? Absolutely. It's just the daily ones that I think you should hesitate not to do, because it's annoying, to be honest. There's no other way to say that.
Anybody would be annoyed by that.
Call me every day. I'm like,
I know.
This is Rachel, right? like it's just again, any updates, like they're going to annoy you. But absolutely call. And that's also how you can develop relationships with other funders, right? So I do, like I said, grants, and I also do solicitations, but funders are great because they're like, hey, we didn't have this in mind, but we have this other award, especially the bigger foundations. Like, well, let me know about the other awards. So it does not hurt, but just be cautious.
Yeah. I think that answered Michelle's question. So the answer is yes. It's okay to follow up with them.
So for KMC Grat 2, there's no particular, okay, so the format, it depends. For me, for government stuff, there's usually a very specific format. So Times New Roman 11, 8.5 by 11, page footer, like, so that I don't have a lot of creative room in the proposals I do. So, or it's either Arial or Times New Roman, but so I don't have that. The best I can do is just try to break up how it's presented so I don't have a wall of just text. That's for the stuff that I do.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have a giant paragraph of text that can be displayed in a graphic, display it in a graphic instead, because graphics have a higher memory retention than text does. And we've actually got a video about this exact topic by one of our top proposal managers on our YouTube that you can watch. But it's all about how evaluators are more likely to remember seeing a picture than they are words. And that's why as kids, we start reading picture books literally before we get to words, because it's easier to understand. And you don't want to make it impossible for your evaluator to understand what you're saying. They're already reading through 10 other plus proposals about possibly dry topics, that can be difficult to read about. So, Kay McGrath too, I would say if you can add some color, if you're allowed to add color, you can add some color into your tables. So add in some tables to show data instead of just writing it out. Add in maybe some logos instead of writing out names of a bunch of companies, and making sure that you're also adding visual charts and graphs and that sort of thing. And make graphics. Just look through your content, and maybe when you're editing it, as you go through, point out areas like, okay, I think this could be a graphic instead, or even putting your testimonials into little call out boxes. That's a really nice visual distraction as well to break up all that text. My best practice is to not ever have a page of just straight on text. There has to be something visual in there.
Yeah, and I would add to that, when you're doing the call, some people like to use the funders like logos and colors. I say use your style if you can, because that's memory association. So some of the proposals I do are 200 pages, right? I don't particularly want to see, I want to make sure they're getting this is us, this is us, this is us every page. So we try to highlight that with colors and photos and pictures. It could be, especially pictures of you just, I do kind of healthcare ones. So if my client has pictures of them actually in their facility, just everyday people, it's just so much better than photo stock. But use colors, break it up, show and then explain, because people are just going to skim, to be honest.
Right. And that's a great case for captions too, putting captions or, just titles on all of your pictures that are saying what's in it. Staying within that graphic design discussion, we'll come back to your question, Allison. I have a graphic design background, and I always format proposals with color and artistic elements. I was also wondering if that was way too much, or if it's appropriate because we're a creative agency. 100% appropriate because you're a creative agency, but you have to make sure you're staying within the requirements of the proposal. If they say it needs to be all black and Times New Roman 12-point font, you got to follow that, because if it's a blatant disrespect of the requirements, then that means, and you can attest to this too as an evaluator, Lisa, I mean, that means that you're saying, oh, I know you said that, but I'm not really going to pay attention to that because I have a different way.
And also, again, for government, they're usually size restrictions. So some documents can't be over 20 megabytes. I have one due on Monday that can't be over 10. It's going to be at least 400 pages. So we had to minimize graphics, change the color, reduce font size, just because they will not accept anything over 10 megabytes. So you may want to also read through the RFP to see if there are any size requirements that may limit your ability to send a creative proposal. And a lot of government proposals, they'll allow you to break it up, but you can't send it through like WeTransfer. They will not take an outside site, so you have to send it via email. So that's just something to be cautious of.
And that kind of that size requirement kind of goes into Allison's question, which is, what's your perspective on including videos in responses? Is it overplayed? I think it depends a lot on your industry, what you do and what your client does, and how you're inserting the video into the proposal. There are so many different kinds of proposals today. I mean, some proposals are in video format, but including a video in your PDF, I don't know whether you'd be including like an actual video or the link to the video, but if you're including an actual video, that's obviously going to take up a lot of space, and you would be possibly over capacity in that case. What do you think, Lisa? Is it overplayed?
I don't use video. The only time we have video is usually if we get to like the final round for interviews. We never have to record anything.
Well, I feel like government is kind of behind on everything, but
that's why I love it. I'm like, 8.5 by 11 times New Roman 11. Got it.
Oh, no, don't say that. But with the videos, I would say adding a link is definitely, I think it would be fine. The only issue is that sometimes evaluators don't click on your links. So I think you would have to be very specific. And something interesting that you might try that I've done in previous proposals is putting a screenshot of the video with the little play button on it, and then writing a caption underneath that says, hey, if you click on my video, you'll find this. And so having that little teaser preview might entice people to click on the link a little bit more, but I wouldn't say it's overplayed. And again, it depends on your industry, Allison. It seems like you're at T-Mobile. So I mean, I would say go for it. You guys have a very vibrant brand.
Yeah, I have T-Mobile, so.
Yeah. Okay, Michelle, I see a lot of RFPs with immediate deadlines. Are there any time management tips on creating proposals? I think we're all asking this.
The way I manage it for myself, because I also have to apply to RFPs, so I understand how difficult it is to do it, is that I keep a running list, right? Because some things I'm just not going to make. Like if you're working with yourself, just some things I'm not going to make, but I know that'll probably come out again. So I try to start having kind of boilerplate answers to certain questions, because I know that those questions are going to be repeated. Why did you start your business? And how do you help your community? Like I have to have those answers. What are you going to do with this money? Right. Yeah. So like, so those answers I keep, I just try to keep a running record, again, for government stuff. If something comes by and you're like, damn, that was really, really suitable for me, you can do a FOIA request after it's awarded. I think you should, let's say it's awarded in November, then I would wait about 3 months and then see if you can get the FOIA request to get the winning grant. So that at least next year or next time, you're better prepared for what they're looking for, who won, why they won. It may just be that the company that wins is really big. Well, then you need to know that you need to start reaching out to see if you can maybe subcontract with them. But I just keep a list of things that I want to apply to and thought I missed, and just try to prepare the proposal anyway, is what I say, and then have it ready for the next opportunity.
Yeah, and that kind of goes into content libraries as well, just keeping that up to date. And if you're using a software that allows you to click a few buttons and automatically have a proposal ready to go, that definitely helps save you some time, for sure.
Absolutely.
Do you have any tips on subcontracting? I know we have some solopreneurs and freelancers on here as well.
Yeah.
Build relationships. So after every webinar, I can tell you how I got started with Dragonfly, because I was with Dragonfly before Rachel was. No, which I was. No, when I first started out, I had nowhere to go. I did not know what I was doing. So please don't think that this confidence, it comes from like, I don't understand how people do this. I wanted an off-ramp. And so I went on LinkedIn finally one day, decided to upgrade my profile. And I saw all these people had like, Lisa Green, CFA, APMP. And I'm like, well, I'm certified. What is this? Why is everyone using this? And so I changed it and then I started connecting with people. And then I would go to every webinar that I could. As soon as I finished the presenter, I'm like, hey, found you on LinkedIn. Thanks for hosting and connect. What happened was I went to a webinar hosted by Sam, president of Dragonfly. We connected afterwards and we were just talking. I didn't say to her like, hey, she was like, hey, what do you do? And I'm like, this is what I do. And that's how we talked. I think about a year later, 6 months, she's like, hey, I have a project. Could you help? And I said, absolutely. So what I would suggest to do, and I still do this now, connect with your presenters, see if you can set up time to talk to them. I met someone last week and we're looking into a project. It was the same thing. She has opportunities. She does private foundations. I do government. And we're like, maybe we can meet somewhere in the middle. And so reach out to people and keep in touch, right? So things will come up and I'll think like, hey, I needed someone to do a press release 2 weeks ago. And a client asked me, I'm like, I don't personally do them, but I knew someone. I'm like, hey, are you still doing press releases? And she's like, yeah, what do you need? I'm like, my client actually needs this. we got the press release out. So that's how you do it. You build your network that way, and just keep in contact with people. There are things that come through to me, or I'll send things that, Rachel will reach out to me about something like this. So that's what my suggestion is.
I would just add one thing to that is if you are starting your own company, which I know you did, Lisa, it would be great to get that woman-owned certification or the minority-owned certification, the small business, because those are all things that the government and other bigger contractors are looking for. They're trying to fill a quota of using diverse suppliers, and you can get in there with that certification and cinch that job because you've got that certification.
And also use your directories. So I don't know
Right.
if this association has a directory yet, but if you do, I have gotten several clients through like APMP's consultant directory and GPA, the Grant Professional Associates directory. They Googled and like we found you through the directory, and we're looking for a woman-owned small business. And I do put that everywhere, or minority-owned small business. So I also get work through my association's consultant directories.
Yeah, nice. So we've got another question. Any tips for content libraries that are good for plugging in responses for proposals? Well, we use Loopio, so that would be the one that I would recommend. There's also RFPIO. And I know a lot of people have like switched between Loopio and RFPIO, so I guess up to you. What else do we have, Lisa?
I'm old school. I have Excel, Loopio, and RPIO are pricey. They're not cheap.
Yeah.
So if you're smaller, and I have a client who they have like 1 or 2 major proposals a year because of the nature of their business. So it's not cost effective to have that software. So otherwise, I just use Excel or a Google Doc on Basecamp or something like that, where I keep the information of what I need, and I'm able to pull it that way. But I kind of use whatever is free and available currently.
It's nice to have a standard template proposal template too, so that if you are going old school like that, you have something ready to go and you can just remove stuff as needed.
Yeah, I have a template.
Rocket
There was
Docs,
something I
QJD.
used, I think it's like Bitly.io. It was something like that where I could build a template online, but I ended up stopping using it. But yeah, Allison said there's Rocket Dockets, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there. It just depends, your price point and
your industry too.
Your industry,
there are
how
some that are
often.
industry specific. Yeah. These are great questions. Keep them coming. Oh, we only have 10 minutes. Running out of time.
Yeah, if you have any questions, please drop that in the chat. I mean, y'all been doing that very well to begin with, but also want to ensure that this will be published on our YouTube channel. So if you're not following us already, you can go to YouTube, African American Marketing Association. We have all of our webinars and podcast interviews on that channel. So that will be published later on today.
Awesome. Thanks, Michelle.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, if you guys have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us online. We're on all the social medias and all the things, you'll find us.
That's where we are, right? Into all the things. But LinkedIn is the fastest way to find me personally. I think my email is there. So drop me an email and just tell me you're from this webinar, and I'll respond.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going on me. So
for sure.
All right. Thank you both so much. Personally, I enjoy the weapons of influence. I know I'm going to be incorporating that in my proposals. Thank you so much for the overall presentation. Thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon, and make sure you connect with them on LinkedIn.
Thanks, Michelle. Bye, everyone.
Michelle, thank you, everyone.